What's up, everybody? John here with Feldman. Thanks for tuning in for another one of our posts and videos. And we're going to talk today a little bit about training for running. Should you use pace or should you use heart rate? To be honest, they both have their pros and cons. We happen to think that heart rate training is just that much better for you when it comes to planning your training and planning your races than strictly using pace alone, right? Now, this is going to be a line of best fit. Again, we like to talk to the majority of our runners out there. We know that there are definitely better ways to do things, and depending on your experience, the type of runner you are, there's even power that you can use for running. But we're not talking about that right now. What we're doing is we're talking about the majority of us recreational runners out there and why we think heart rate training can be a little bit better for you than training with pace. When it comes to running, right, most people conventionally think of minutes per mile, their pace, and how fast did I run, and how quickly did you finish your 5K, 10K, your half marathon, your full marathon, right? And so pace is something that's going to dictate how fast you're doing it, right? How fast you're running. But the problem is pace can be affected by a number of variables, and that's where heart rate kind of fills in those gaps and picks up the slack where pace just can't get that done. So how can I put it to you more simply? Think of it this way. Let's just say you have a 5K and you can run your best 5K, your fastest 5K on flat level ground, okay? Now, are you going to be able to do that same time up on a really hilly course, running a 5K on a hilly course, or on a really, really hot, humid day, or if you've just been completely thrashed and stressed out from work and overworked and you haven't slept well, maybe you're feeling a little under the weather, or you just haven't been eating great lately, right? Think about all those things. How are they going to affect your time? Are you going to be able to achieve the same times? Or is it going to require a lot more effort for you to get the same job done running on an empty fuel tank or running on a really hot day, terrible sleep, things like that, right? So you can see pace is not always the most reliable when it comes to giving you a gauge as far as what your effort level should be or what you should be doing for a race day or anything like that. You can do your pace testing, you can do threshold tests for running, and you can get your threshold paces, and that's absolutely fine. The more data you have for this, the better. We're just taking this a step farther and saying, okay, that's great. We have one metric here, yet that metric is susceptible to being affected by temperature, humidity, again, how tired you are, how well recovered you are. Do you have great fuel in your system? Have you been eating better? Are you stressed out? Things like that, right? So those are things that you should be taking into account when it comes to going out for your training runs or planning your race paces and things of that nature. So it's a concept that not a lot of people are very familiar with because most people have a GPS watch with all the new fancy technology out there, and they say, yeah, just keep track of it. And a lot of people make a handful of very common mistakes. They go out and they just run the same paces over and over again, or they try and run with their friends in different areas and you find it's a different course than you're used to, and your body's just not well adapted to that new change and that new variable, and you're just kind of left saying, oh, I don't know what to do, or that run felt really, really difficult, or on a really hot, humid day, people are posting online in our run groups, oh man, it was a struggle today. I'm used to running X pace and I have a race coming up in a few weeks or a couple months and I was exhausted today and it was impossible to reach those same paces. Am I doomed for my race? And we're like, no way, time out, pump the brakes. Let's take a step back, let's take a deep breath and realize that all those things are actually going to affect your body and you haven't done anything wrong. You just need to realize that in order to run with a hurdle in front of you, and remember that hurdle is heat, extreme cold, so any extreme temperatures, humidity, your fueling, your sleep, right? I don't want to rehash that over and over again, but if you face any of those hurdles, it's going to take you far more effort to achieve these same results, meaning the same paces that you're used to. The problem is, if you want to achieve those same results, something's got to give. So you're going to be working that much harder. Your heart is going to be working that much harder to pump blood and oxygen to the rest of your muscles to make them work. And you only have so many beats in the tank, so to speak, for your training sessions or for your races. In the same way that we have a threshold pace for running, you have a threshold heart rate. So you have your run zones, if you're familiar with them, and then you also have your heart rate zones. And your heart rate zones are obviously going to be a span. Let's just say 130 to 145 beats per minute will be zone X, and then 170 will be higher zone. And the higher your zone, the higher, the faster you're running, the more effort it's going to require. And so your heart rate zone is going to be in a higher zone as well. And you know that if you're running faster, your zone 4 to zone 5 for running, Those are usually your, your interval zones or your 5K threshold zones, right? You can't sustain those efforts for as long as you can at lower zones. So you can't run your 5K pace, for the same, duration that you run a marathon. It just doesn't work like that, right? That's why your marathon pace is a little slower. So in the same vein, your higher heart rates are only going to be able to let you work for X amount of time, and usually a shorter amount of time. But when you face those hurdles, right, it's hot out, you're tired, your heart rate is actually going to be higher. It's going to take a lot more effort to achieve the same results as if you're running at a slower pace. So these are the things that we want you to start thinking about when it comes time to deciding, hey, should I be training with pace? Should I look into maybe training with heart rate? We love people getting an idea of what their RPE is, or the rate of perceived effort. So what is your effort level when it comes to running, outside? Or, once you start running for a while, you can start to learn, what is my effort level for a 5K? What is my effort level for a half marathon? And then you become so accustomed and in tune with your body that you can make those adjustments on the fly. If you get outside, you're like, oh man, it's a lot hotter out than I thought. Maybe I was planning on doing this pace. I should back it off a little bit. I should take 30 seconds per mile off that and run a little bit slower, right? Or if you look at your watch, if you're wearing a heart rate monitor, you can say, oh man, it doesn't feel like it's that hard out, but my heart rate is skyrocketing for a relatively easy run. You know that you should back it off a little bit. Your body's telling you that something's not right. It has to work a lot harder to achieve the same results. And the end goal is not always going to be good if we just keep blowing through those barriers. So, that's the take-home message here, is that training with heart rate can be far more accurate than training by pace alone. And once you get a good handle on that, you'll be able to be a much more efficient runner, because you'll be able to make those decisions on the fly and say, oh, I'm training for, or the plan is for X today, but based on these variables over here, I may have to change that. Or if you're doing a new course, or if it's a hilly course, or anything like that, it just makes you that much more efficient of a runner, and you're going to be able to make those decisions for yourself rather than stressing out about it. And all in all, you'll be much better off for it. So we love training with heart rate. We love people getting accustomed to training with heart rate and finding the heart rate zones. And once you understand your body a lot better, the activities are usually a lot more enjoyable, and it's far more efficient. So you tend to see your times and your paces get faster and faster as the months go on. So it's just that much more effective of a training tool and training variable than pace alone. So how can you do this? Justin's done some great videos on different heart rate devices. We have all the wearable technology on the wrist, on the chest straps, the armbands, the forearm bands. There are a number of devices out there, so we can link them for you. So give those videos a watch, and you can learn a little bit more about the devices. Some of them are more effective than others. Not everybody likes them. Some people like the convenience of a wrist versus a chest strap. And like I said, some companies and some devices are a little bit more effective than others. But you can, go ahead and read up on those. And if you have any questions, please let us know. But in the meantime, mull this over, think this over. Think about training with heart rate. And if you've done it before, that's excellent. Keep doing it, dive into it. It's a great topic to learn about if you're a runner. And if you guys have any questions, obviously, please let us know. So that's today's video. There's a blog post that goes along with this to kind of spell it out a little bit easier for you guys. But thanks for watching. Thanks for the subscribes and the likes. We appreciate all of you. So until next time, happy training.